Hello, everyone in the virtual space. We are so excited to have this con happening today, this Saturday, August 10th. We've been planning this feverishly and with so much focus. My name is Gen X. I am part of the team that helped put this together. I'm just actually hosting this area. Brandon Bloxdorf is the creative mind and energy behind. We've been working together to kind of make this as an amazing project and overall experience. But anyway, why don't we do this? Why don't we do the familiar intros real quick with Brandon, and we have Dan here as part of the Comix Wellspring family, and just want to say hi, y'all, real quick before I press play on the Air Meet attendee experience.
Hey, I'm Brandon Bloxdorf. You guys know me hosting all the Comix Wellspring shows, the marketing director as well. Came on board with Inspired Inc. and now we're just running everything and it's super excited. We love what we've done over the last few months being part of the CWS team. And this is just one of the many phases that we're building up right now of all the cool, extraordinary things. I really, honestly, none of this would be happening and I would not be in this position. I would not be doing these cool shows. I wouldn't be printing these amazing quality comics all above me as well. If it wasn't really for this man right here, Dan Hills. So I just want to say thank you to Dan, first off, for giving us this opportunity and making all this happen and come together. Because without Dan, literally things would be just on fire in shambles. Like there would not be any cool, fun, interactive community at AWS. There wouldn't be any like great changes and customer focus. Like all of this comes from really from Dan Hills. So let's say hi, but a warm round of applause and welcome to Dan, our awesome CEO that's really made this possible for all of our creators here. So little golf clap right there, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, geez. Yeah, thanks, man. uh, how do I meet up to that kind of introduction? Well, first off, thanks so much. I mean, shoot, it's really, honestly, I just feel insanely privileged and like lucky to be in this position. I mean, coming from the CMO position now to the CEO position, I've just been I mean, it's been surreal. It's been hard. Obviously, we've had some crazy transitional hiccups and stuff. But uh, now that we're kind of finding our footing and stuff, it's like surreal.
Yeah.
Something I can leave a legacy for my sons and stuff. So it's like super exciting, and just seeing creators bring their ideas to life. I mean, shoot, there's nothing that brings me more life as a creator myself. So, but you know. Kind of piggyback on what Brandon was saying. You give the credit to me, but realistically, I just gave you a platform, and you took it and ran with it and turned it into what it is today. So, I mean, I'm forever grateful for you and my entire team for getting us through this and making a really cool experience for the creator, and just looking to be better and improve along the way. So, well, that wasn't an introduction, but I'm Dan, creator, CEO of Comix Wellspring, and honestly, this whole event, these two gentlemen right here putting this together, it was all them. They're just absolutely amazing and such a blessing to this industry. So, thank you for letting us host this, and yeah, I'm looking forward to a whole day of fun conversations.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. This is such a
Yeah,
cool platform.
yeah, it is.
Being part of this and like joining Gen X earlier this year and having these conversations and starting this thing, it was a really good opportunity, I feel, because Comics Wellspring does so many cool things with conventions. We've done anthologies, we've sponsored some, we interact, we go and we table, we do all these things, and this is a virtual experience that during COVID, I feel like that was a big time where all these virtual events were happening and like we all want to we all want to talk to our friends, and like sometimes those conventions are so difficult to get to, and exhausting, doing 3 days worth of conning. And it doesn't matter if you're an artist, if you're an exhibitor, if you're an attendee, it's a lot to take in and it's a lot to just feel drained, and you want to see all these panels, you want to meet all your creators, but it feels impossible. So these virtual cons kind of brings that all back into the center, and we're all at home. We could all be in our pajamas if we wanted to be, and actually enjoy comics and have these conversations, and actually like do everything Comics Wellspring loves to do, and actually do this virtually and try to connect with more people. So this is gonna be a fun test run. This is gonna be a fun first con, and I think it's a big milestone for Comix Wellspring as well, for just diving into a interactive way to find another way to reach out to community, which kind of what brings it all back to it. So Dan, community,
Yeah.
why is that so important to you as the CEO of Comix Wellspring?
Well, I think it's the simple answer is that I'm a creator, and I know like a lot of us are introverts by nature, so like having somewhere where you're not jumping over hurdles to just try to communicate with other creators or like having to go like that's been so important to me. I think the more creators I meet and the more experiences I learn about, the more the better I become as a creator. And I think that's only done through the avenue of community. I mean, some of the greatest things that have been created were always, produced by a team of people with a collective mindset rather than an individual. So, which indie comics are like super unique in that fashion where it's like you can do it alone, but you can do a lot more with other people. So it's like it's really cool, especially from my perspective of being on the comic book printing side, is you don't just see independent creators sending in their work, but you see like anthologies and these like groups of publishing teams that are just really trying to make it on their own. And I mean, that just keeps me hungry because I think I told you this a long time ago too. It's like I aspire to publish and create a ton. I have a ton of ideas, tons of comic books, but me remaining hungry throughout this journey has honestly given me such a deep perspective of the struggles and like all the journey and the dedication it takes to like tread your own path as an independent creator. But the best way to get to that point where you can do it and sustain and have the durability, because this stuff is not easy, um, is usually cemented through community, seeing other people do it and talking to them and learning from experiences. That's why cons have always been a really big component of like our vision and stuff. Because when I first got on board as a CMO and a young creator, I always we would attend the local cons, and I always envisioned like CWS being not just a part in sales at comic cons, but like how can we create our own? How do we own our own and like make it more about the indie? And over the years, obviously, a lot of these really well-known cons have kind of veered away from independent creators and focused on corporate partnerships and whatnot, like the foot traffic, which is important to us. But more importantly, I think having a con that's hyper focused on just the indie creators it was always needed. But it seems like it, even post COVID, like it got even worse. Whereas like more of the cons were kind of like losing that side of it, and or leaning away from the focus because there's not everyone in this comic book industry cares or knows about comics. But the
Yeah,
fact of the matter
very
is
true.
like I always envision like Comix Wellspring being a contributor to what maybe it's subjective, but what I thought a Comic Con should be, which I thought it would be the primary focus is the creation of new ideas and indie comic books. So over the years, we specifically partnered with cons that did this, and we aspire to partner with tons more. But we also want to do our own so we can, you know, make it enriched with education and, not just, hey, come here and try to get sales. Some of you spend money on a booth and not get sales. It's like, I know how hard that is.
Yeah.
But like if you're there and you're getting like community and education and just common like camaraderie with other illustrators, or you're taking some advice home, like that's worth it to me. So there's always something so magical. And now that we're in this position, and yes, technology, through COVID, like allowed us to do virtual, and really this platform is insane, by the way. Uh, but to have something like this and like not make people spend money to go, even though there is that missing element. Obviously, the
Mhm.
person interaction is there's something magical to be said about that. But like this is still sweet and it's really cool and we could do this more often, and I think it's something that really unites and strengthens us. And community is like the core, I think, the core foundation and the core value of who I envision Comix Wellspring to be in the future. There's a lot of problems that indie creators face in this industry and really in the marketing and sales of their books and stuff like that. So I think if I'm in the position as a creator to lead the way for Comix Wellspring, I want to solve as many problems I can while delivering a good product. Obviously, with this transition, the main focus is like doing the best we can with the job that we're handed, which is printing high quality comic books. But like, we shouldn't stop there. We should do a lot more. We should do a lot more if we can do a lot more. And that's the direction we're going, and and it all stems from community. I mean, so that's it's my long drawn out take on community, but I mean, like that's the most important
It's
thing.
the
I
heart of it. You
It
know,
is.
that's it's what it comes down to. And in fact, we have a lot of our community popping in the chat. I'll stop some post some stuff on the stage right here. This is from Mark Dooley. Hi guys, Mark Dooley here. Having given you no end of headaches with my comic, Mark and D. I'm here to pest you even more. Mark, thank you so
Good.
much for popping in. Super excited to see you here, and we can't wait. I can't wait. Actually, cool thing about this, I love when people promote their books, especially when they throw a comment up, because
Yeah.
that gets us an eye on things. It gets us to look up things, and it gets other people to go out and search for
And you
Mark and
should
D.
be. You should be.
Yeah,
Yeah, you should be promoting
yeah,
yourself any and everywhere you can.
yeah. Every avenue you can. That's the whole
Yeah.
point, and that's the cool thing about these. I mean, this is a point where you give your book a shout out, and then who knows, we might be writing an article about it on our new site coming up very soon as well. So keep an eye out for that. More news that way. John Runyuan from Bamboo Panel Studios here. We
Okay.
appreciate your team and we absolutely love the attention to detail and quality of the product. Thank you for all that you
Yeah.
do. John, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate actually just everything you do. Bamboo Studios is an awesome place.
Yeah.
We definitely got to get you on a show and everything is very soon as well.
Yeah.
And then we have Corey Holden here. Um, and then, hi guys, my name is Corey Holden. This is my first time attending a virtual Comic Con. I'm actually excited to meet you guys. Thank you so much, my dude.
Good. Excited to meet
Really,
you.
really excited. And then we have George Alvarez, who's actually going to be speaking later on today on a panel. George from Comic Unknown here. Honored to be here and excited to be attending the virtual Comic Con. Thank you so much, George. I don't know if he goes by George or Jorge. I always get that mixed up. I'll talk to him in a bit. He's one of my awesome Latino friends that I love so much. He's down in Florida. He's amazing. But Dan, so much has happened since we've had our last conversation. The last episode of Inspired Inc. we did in June. We took a pause on Inspired Inc. We wanted the CEO episode to be a statement. We wanted people to catch up on the 51 episodes we did between November and
Yeah.
May. Like, it was insane.
It was a full-on fledged sprint.
I was podcasting so much like in
Yeah.
the first quarter of the year that we just had to take a moment to be like, all right, now let's just catch up to everything we just did. And
we
tank
can't
on
we
the
can't burn
agents.
out our marketing director. Don't burn him out. There's a lot of other things to be doing. So
Yes, exactly.
it's
As
an
we
important
discovered
show,
this
though. I'm super stoked about it to get back on that.
It's going to be great once we do our next season. Essentially, I feel like we're going to do seasons in batches of
Oh
50
yeah,
episode
yeah, for
batches,
sure.
probably.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where this started for me too, was Inspired Inc. Podcasting, and it came down.
Yeah.
You and me met at Baltimore Comic Con. I was in a rough spot in my life at that time too,
Mhm.
and you and me just started a conversation, and it never stopped, and we just grew this thing, kind of like when you meet someone and you start developing a comic. You kind of have a flair
Yeah.
and an
Mhm.
idea, and then once you meet with another creator and you realize you could bring this whole thing together, and it explodes bigger than you would have ever imagined. I would have
Yeah.
never thought to have a sponsored CWS anthology here with the Punk anthology. That was
Yeah.
it was mind-blowing for me and everyone involved in that book, because it's not just about me when it
Dude.
comes to like Apollo and anthologies. You did this for like 20 something creators by giving that sponsored
Yeah. Yeah.
book on that. How do you feel about not only just like the books that come in day after day, week after week? Like, what is your take on indie comics and the importance of like creative growth, and how does that reflect into your business mindset even more?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think my vision for the perfect Comix Wellspring is, not only efficient operations and just quality products, all the given stuff that should be, a non-negotiable. But like outside of that, it should be reflective of the creators, like the brand, the messaging, the everything about like how we build and how we prioritize things should be reflective on what's important to the creator themselves. I think that's where all of this stems from. I mean, we're in a niche, and we're not like, we're competing with bigger printers and mom and pop shops and printers our size, but at the same time, like, I think the most important aspect of us, besides working really hard for the quality and of the product and service, but like I said at the beginning, like what else do creators need? And we, like, it's our responsibility to figure that out and do what we can to do, to meet the needs. If that's starting a podcast, then just so people have a platform to talk about their comics, and that's what it takes. So I feel like, over the years, we've obviously honed in on that a lot more. And I think it just doesn't stop there. And to create an indie comic book, I mean, everyone in the audience knows about that. It's just there's a lot of tedious steps. I mean, there's a lot you can go about it like, like cowboy style, where it's just like, start drawing and start going, and a lot of people do that, and I tip my hat to them. But like, I'm a planner. I like to like plan every stage and try to forecast somewhat of a future, and what to expect and stuff. So I mean, like, it building a business is just like that. There's just so many components, and just to have an idea of what like each component plays into the final product is important. And the only way to know that is by listening and being a part of it, and stop putting your feet in their shoes, and who you're serving, who your audience is. Even as a indie creator, like, what does your audience, it's important to find out, like, what does your audience like about your comic books? I mean, if they like it just because you're doing it, that's cool, but like, really pull out the real purposes of why they enjoy it, and then lean into those a little more. I mean, the same could be said for our business too. It's like, people want indie creators need more exposure, more people. They need to, like, they need assistance in changing the perception of comic books in general. I think, that's always been a bothersome to me, like how people, it's still ridiculous how some people think like comic books are like not for adults, and like, it's like there's that huge part of the society. And I think that's a philosophical problem for our little niche, but like, I still think we can play in a role into expanding people's horizons on how they're, absorbing entertainment. And you can't do that. You can't make decisions on those things with the brand messaging and whatnot, the direction, without really knowing the creator through and through.
Mhm.
And that's why I feel like the stars aligned with me in this position, because, I am a creator. I'm an inspiring creator too. I've never claimed that I've made it, and I'm just this, like, I know everything about publishing. Uh,
Right.
but I want to learn alongside the creator as well. So like, the most important part of my job is like really a deep analysis of like, how are we serving them? How can we be better? What processes need to be scalable? And then, like, what do they really need outside of the core fundamental or foundational product and services? I think that they line up perfectly. I mean, I think I told you this too when you came on board. Like, I don't look at our customers as like direct to consumer, or like just one-off customers. I think of
Mhm.
like, we're a B2B, we're serving businesses. And so like, it's important to me. I mean, we've only been on this journey as me CEO for 4, 5, 6 months. I don't even remember. Time's just flying by. But like, but like, I never got the chance to like really lean into that at CMO. But now that I'm CEO, I really like some of our decisions going forward, after we clean up the mess of the transition, which we're there, is primarily like, leaning more into how do we serve the customer better outside of just the generalized services. You know, how do we leverage what we have and what we built with community to enrich every person a part of that community as well. So um, yeah, there's a lot in common. I mean, so when I say we're serving B2B, I mean you're running a business creating comic books, you're learning about your readers. We're literally doing the same thing to this
Hmm.
industry. We're just trying to learn and try to do things better. Uh, you know, a lot of other printers, they're printers. It's a business. It's a, you know, they focus on printing and that's it. And that's cool. And I like that. I like that there's plenty of options out there. However, I think the industry needs someone like a brand that's doing a lot more for the indie creator. And if it's gonna be anyone, it's gonna be Comix Wellspring, you know, if you know, if I'm at the helm.
Yeah, no, I mean,
You
and when
know?
you think about it, it's been what I think 5 months since you took over. I want to say March was like your takeover date, or month around that
Yeah,
time, from
yeah.
what I understand.
March, like the beginning, I think it was March
Yeah,
1st or 2nd. So it was like right
yeah.
at the beginning.
Right at the beginning there. So we're like 5, 6 months into this, and it's been, it felt really wild at first. You kind of got this
Yeah.
like this beast that was not tamed, that was not,
No.
not
I like
trained at
to
all.
say
It
it
was
I
very
like to say it
savage.
was fumbled off rather than
Yes.
a handoff. It was fumbled and, yeah, yeah,
And
when you're go
it's
ahead.
kind of crazy because like Comics Wellspring, as I've discovered, and as you also have discovered, through conversations, through conventions, through feedback from customers, through everything, is that we appear as a very big, well-oiled
Yeah,
machine,
yeah,
and that's, I take that as a compliment, because Apollo's gone the same, in some instances. And when people think that you're larger than you are, and it turns out that we're a team of 10 people, you and I
yeah,
included. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like we have a
yeah,
very small team, and
yeah,
we're handling thousands and thousands of creators' comics.
yeah,
And we had to shift gears and find place people in the right spots, and really discover what spots were best for some people as
yeah,
well. That
yeah,
took a lot of, we had to fumble, we had to fall a little bit, we had a trip, and then we had to pick our pants back up and get back on the bike and start rolling.
yeah, you know, and it's like really it sucks that like we had casualties along the way. It
Hmm.
really does, and like that's like the hardest part. As a learning curve for me, I'm young, and it's like I've had a couple businesses in the past, sold a business, but like this one is like, you know, it's a ton of overhead. There's a ton of people. There's a ton of customers. There are owners, you know, that are
Hmm.
kind of somewhat separated from who we're serving. You know,
Hmm.
so with all that, like it was crazy. And coming from a CMO background, my job was to expand the brand and get more business, and that's what I did. Now it's meet the demand after some disruptive, insanely ill-planned disruptive transition. And now it's like you said, tame the beast, and it really is. But I knew we would, like any other acquisition or transfer of ownership, like yes, there's like you're gonna fall short on some aspects, especially if there wasn't really a good strong foundation when it was during handoff, and that's kind of what we faced. But uh, I think it's just plain to see like we have an insanely dedicated team at Comics Wellspring that stuck through it. I mean, I'll mention this name just because everyone and their grandma knows about her. Pam, like Pam and Mel, who are just the most single-handedly most devoted people I've ever worked with in my life. But the transition was crazy because, like, it was an ask, like, I had to ask them to come over. I mean, they're driving far now, they was
Yeah.
right where they were was down the street and whatnot, but that transition and to keep these important people on staff that really, really loved what they were doing and really loved and had personal relationships with these customers or our partners, and, like, it was so important, those with them, but like we couldn't have stabilized like we're doing now without every single one of the team. So like it's been insane learning curve, but I think the most important thing I've taken from this whole event is like A, listen to the customer closely, and then B, like trust in those people who are devoted as you are. I mean, like, find out who they are and just like trust them, invest in them, take risk on them, and just let them fix problems along with you. If they're going to fix a lot more than you if they're so close to their specific area in the business. So that's just been, I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's just been like the journey. And I mean, it's been crazy. I can talk all day about it, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's insane blessing to, be at this stage, in this virtual con.
Speaking of questions, let's we have John asking a question here, and we'll pop up some comments right after. But I didn't expect this to pop up so big too. This was a cool learning experience. Question: sharing at a level you're comfortable with. What was the nature of this transition? I am fairly new to CWS community, but I will say the timeline of my first order months ago versus the lightning quick order last week. No more fumble.
Yeah. I mean, so in a nutshell, actually, I'm getting ready. I wrote a letter, and I'll just spoil that right now. I wrote a letter to all our customers, and that'll be sent out like very soon. And it's kind of
I think we get even.
Yeah.
It should be going out today.
It's also printed. So like we're gonna do. I just want everyone to kind of get and understand. We lead a company of transparency. Like, we're a business. Like, there's no way around it. You're a business. The stabilization now has really helped us because before we transitioned and when it was owned by previous owners, like I said, I was bringing in a lot of business. I was building the brand, and the demand was increasing so fast, so rapidly. It took it At the time, in hindsight, I know what it needed to fulfill that demand, and it took someone of passion and understanding of this industry and who we were serving to really take the risk to scale, and that's what we needed. We needed to scale. We needed to scale to meet the demand, but that wasn't the case. And hats off to the old owners for admitting that they didn't want to do it. But the fact is, like, it was handed off during a crazy time. The demand was outweighing the ability to meet the demand, the supply, and instead of scaling, it was handed off, and as I previously mentioned, fumbled off to my in my perspective. But when there was already a backlog of orders, so like the transition was uncomfortable. Like, there was a lot of things, and I break this down in the letter. I just feel like it's the most important thing is to be transparent about. Like, I don't want to cover up anything. It was pretty crazy, but I knew we were going to take a hit, and then over the last like 2 months, or the first 2 months, was just trying to keep up, trying to figure out where are the problems. Where are the issues in this production line? Where are the issues in it's manufacturing? There's so many stages, and identifying those. I mean, it's not an overnight thing. I had to get down, basically learn every piece of the pie and get my hands in it. Coming from a marketing background, like, this is, so I was in the weeds, and I still am. I drive, 4 hours every week down to work in the shop. It's insane. Like, yeah. It's been tough, to say the least, but but in recent weeks, we've stabilized because we've implemented scalable processes in some of the bottlenecked areas, like pre-press. Pre-press is so complicated, and I am so happy we get to talk about it here in today's con with some of our pre-press personnel, but actually our only 2 pre-press personnel now. But but they, it's so complicated because there's a lot of mixed information out there, but regardless, it's across the board in any print company. It's pre-press is usually the problematic stage where a lot of things bottleneck. And I don't know why it wasn't addressed years ago, but I noticed that, and obviously that's where the biggest problem was. So it was like our number one priority was to try to keep the customers happy and try to just work a lot. I mean, the overtime spent on just keeping orders fulfilled was crazy. But the most important part was figuring out what the problems is and put in solutions, and that's kind of what we did. sure, we had casualties along the way. Some people went to, left us, and that's totally fine. I would, I mean, if I was placing my order and trusting a company and they were coming up short, I would do the same. Any consumer would. However, like I said a long
It's a
time ago,
business
like,
thing. Again, it kind of comes to that.
yeah,
Like
and
business is
it's like,
business at that point, you know?
yeah, yeah, and it's totally understandable. I mean, I'm a consumer too. So like, but the fact is, like, just wait and see. That's like kind of my mindset going into it. Just wait and see. I'm just gonna keep going, keep looking and seeking ways to get better, and I'm gonna keep propping up my teammates, encouraging them, and really showing that I trust them, and they are the ones who've been bringing solutions to the table. I think that, like, the job as leaders to encourage, inspire, and support those people who are going to make your business better for you. And that's what I focus on immediately. Is I can't do this alone. I can't just make all these decisions. I haven't been in manufacturing for 30 years or anything like that. So it's like I can't make all these decisions. I should go to the people who are serving customers, and we should break it down there, and get in every stage of the customer journey, and like be a part of that, and like look at the details. And that's what we're doing. I mean, we're not perfect, and we're definitely not even there yet, not to where I want it, my standard, but like we're going to be. And the first thing was to get caught up, get stable, and get the turnaround time back. Like, that's so
Yeah.
important. I know that's important. Like, quality and new machines, that's a no-brainer investment down the road. But like, to get processes, and
Mhm.
yet scalable processes, that's so important in manufacturing. So, and I noticed that after like the first, month, and like really identified those specific pain points, and we tackle them, and we're tackling them right now. So, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell. That's why, now we have pretty quick orders. We're pretty
Yeah.
fast. I mean, we leaned out, and we had to fix a lot of stuff, but that's where where we are, and we're going to continue during this like stable time. We're going to keep implementing technology, and softwares, and like anything to improve the process, so it's smoother, even if we get an influx of orders.
Mhm.
So that's the long answer to that question, though.
I love it. And that takes on so much as well because it shows like the growth that we've had. That even from 2 months in, and then we had the statement, and then about a month later we had your 2-part podcast episode where we really broke down the nitty gritty. So I really suggest everyone kind of go in there and check out the Inspired Inc. episodes going on because that really does have, like Dan, break down everything that was going on with us a few months ago. But it's actually like now shifted over in such a dramatic way that's really
Yeah.
exciting. But I'll read off some of the comments here. We have some amazing stuff going on as well. We have Ria Liso here. So excited to watch the con. You guys printed my first issue of the Sleepless Ones. A dream come true for me. This is such an amazing resource for independent creators. Thank you so much, Ria. I really
Awesome.
appreciate that.
That's,
Adrian Quintero here. Adrian from Almost Vintage. Awesome to be on here. I'm ready to soak it all up. Thanks for the invite. Thank you. And then Mark has another comment here. We just got our 4th issue of Mark and D, Genesis of a Fanboy, and I couldn't be more pleased with how it looks. You guys make my book might make my book look far more uh, than the work of a guy working on a tiny office with a pen and ink of photoshopping colors. I love that. Sorry, I had a glare on my
yeah,
screen.
no, yeah,
Um, Amazing
that's
stuff.
cool.
Peter left a comment here as well. CWS has been a great resource for me and my book, Higher Ground the Musical. Yes, I'm so excited. This is a cool. You guys need to go look up Higher Ground the Musical. It's such a cool,
Yeah.
fascinating book. Printing and customer service is so good. You've made some improvements to CWS Bookstore website. Are there more improvements planned?
Oh yeah.
Yes, the
Oh
CWS
yeah.
Bookstore.
Yeah.
That's going to be another big project we're taking on, revamping, reformatting. We have lots of ideas, and now we're getting out of con season. Con season is one of those things where it's kind of like sports. I had to, I explain this to people who don't really understand it when we're traveling so much, is that we're in season right now. So when we're in season, some things don't happen. Like, podcasts are harder to do. Big implements and shifts are harder to do. But coming out of con season, bookstores, another, 2025 is going to have another big shift in
Yeah.
that bookstore.
Yeah. Yeah. The bookstore, I think like as Brandon said too, we have such a small team, so it's hard to make big leaps and bounds all at once. We're just, we recognize that there's so much to be done in the bookstore, and there's so many possibilities, and we haven't even tapped into it. Now that we have a team of people who like are looking into the details of like, uh, when it comes to commerce for indie creators, like what can we do on the bookstore? Now it's like, yeah, I hate to say it, but I still feel like the bookstore's like a beta, and it's definitely not where we're gonna take it. I mean, it's not like at its max capacity of what we want,
Yeah.
how many things we wanted to accomplish. So yeah, next year is going to be a big year for that. I just want to make sure we're printing books fast and high quality first, and then kind of start toying around with like improving products and really getting premier products in place and paper options and stuff. And then, at the same time, start developing what could be the new bookstore. There's a
Mhm.
lot of cool features, a lot of things that people have brought up to me that I'm like, dude, that would be so cool. That would be so cool on the bookstore. That would be so cool. I mean, I always imagine, CWS as a like a launch pad, basically. It's like we print and distribute. We do the bookstore. I mean, my dream. I'm gonna go off the rails here, but like my dream, is to have a brick and mortar, like and like in front of the print shop, and have where anyone in our bookstores, like we have, that's all we have on our shelves is like our bookstore, and it's like that's what we promote. I mean, and our machines are helping cover overhead and like actually doing the business, but like we can have that. So it's always been my dream, and I know we'll get there. I mean, uh, I know we'll get there. It's
Yeah.
going to be a long journey, but
It's a long
we have the
road.
right people. It's a long road, but we'll get there faster. My wife always tells me, it's like, you always like aspire to these things, but you always get there. You always claim like it's going to take X amount of years, but then it's like the next year you do it. I mean, so it's like, it's just, you got to stay hungry. But like, yeah, that's where we're going to go. I mean, I want to do my part in making sure that indie creators are being seen and more books are being sold outside of just trying to do the crowdfunding over and over and over and
Mhm.
over. It's just rather like,
Yeah.
so that's the bookstore is going to go places. I just got to
And I
fix it.
mean, and what the exciting part about that too is that right now, the bookstore's coming up on our projects, but right now we're working on a new website, and we want our
Yeah.
website to be way more functional for everyone. We want it to be,
Yeah.
really honed in with information, and we're planning all sorts of stuff with that. That's kind of why the bookstore just hasn't come up just yet. We're working on articles in the background. We've been posting around, and if you haven't seen our newsletter, I recommend signing up for it, because there's a
Yeah.
link there. You can submit your book, and we'll write a really cool spotlight article on it. It's not a review; it's a nice spotlight article. Really, we're just trying to find more ways to promote our customers now with what we're capable of doing as we continue to grow into these bigger things as well too. But
Yeah.
Dan, speaking of your wife, speaking of your family, we're gonna wrap up the session here a little bit. We went a little longer than we had planned, but which is super exciting. I always like to go
Yeah.
longer than shorter. That means it was a good conversation. That's what it's always
Yeah.
positive about.
Yeah. It's always
But
good.
this is to just kick off the day, our first virtual con. Dan Hills, thank you so much, dude. It's a
Yeah.
pleasure. We talk so much off camera. We talk so much about work, about life, about
Yeah.
everything. It's been a
You're my
wild
phone call
road,
on the
but it
way to and from the office. Yeah.
yes, I get so much cleaning done on our phone calls. It's the best. But that's for hours. But it's been such a pleasure being part of this team, part of this community. So I just wanted to thank you, and I want to thank you for giving us this team an opportunity and the chance to represent such a great company, such a great it's hard to say even products, because really our products are these creators' amazing
Yeah.
creations. So thank
Mhm.
you all creators for just putting in the hard work, the discipline.
100%.
Making art is hard, writing is hard, drawing is hard, and continuing to go on as a creator and put out those books is extremely difficult. So
Yeah.
super kudos to all of you. John just said, thank you so much to both of you for an awesome session. Thank you all so
Absolutely.
much. We have so
Thank
much more
you.
planned. Coming up next is Gabriel Valentin of Digital
Super
Lizards of
stoked.
Doom and a Mad Cave publication paper cuts. And we'll be talking a lot about indie comics right now, coming up next in just a few minutes. But so Dan, thank you so much. Any last words you would
Thank
like to
you.
say before we sign off?
No, just keep watching. just keep watching us. We're going to make those strides. I guarantee it. I mean, I guarantee it. Just keep watching.
Awesome. Love to
All
hear
right.
it. Thank
And
you all
thank
so
you,
much.
everyone. Thank you, everyone. This is so cool. So I can't wait to see what the rest of the show holds.
Nice. Thank you guys. You have a,
All
we'll
right,
see you in
see you
all a
guys.
little bit.